Kay, thank you so much for sitting down with me today at The Painted Lady. I'm a little intimidated being here because I want a tattoo, but I also have no idea what I would get. So that's a story for another day. Tell me when you started doing tattoos.
So I started doing tattoos 10 years ago. Actually, this month is the anniversary of getting my artist permit. So I did my first tattoo. I did my first tattoo probably 6 months later, but.
Let's rewind before that. So I imagine that you were an artist, and when did you feel like you were good at it and it was something that you really loved?
I've been drawing my whole entire life. I never went to school or anything for it. It's just something that I've always been able to do. So I never really took art as a possible career path, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's just something that I did. You know, my dad used to work at a paper warehouse, and whenever paper would fall off the truck, so to speak, he would bring it home. So I always had tons of paper, and my mom used to draw portraits of us. So it was always something that was there. I just didn't think that I needed to pursue it because it was just something that I could do, and that I also didn't think that it was a possible career path.
So at what point did you think, oh wait a minute, I'm good at this, this is going to be my career?
When I got out of high school, I did go to one of the local shops to see what it would take to get an apprenticeship for piercing, just because I thought that it would be an easy way into the door. But apparently apprenticeships cost money, and I didn't have money at the time. And also, you know, I was young, and
Sure.
I didn't know of any other female tattooers really at the time. There was probably maybe a handful in Fort Wayne. So I just didn't really think it was possible. But then a few years later, I ended up meeting my mentor, and he just offered me an apprenticeship. So I took it, and I progressed pretty quickly. And yeah, 10 years later, here I am.
So tell me about the difference between drawing on the paper that fell off the truck and that learning curve to draw on a human that is not a flat piece of paper. I can't imagine how hard that has to be.
I would definitely say you have to learn how to draw for a tattoo. Not all drawings or artwork will transition or translate into a tattoo. And there are different things that you have to keep in consideration when it comes to the longevity of the tattoo. So how should you construct your designs so that they last as a tattoo over time?
So how did you come to find your aesthetic, and how important is it for you that people know it's your tattoo? Does that make sense?
Yes, this is actually something that I struggle with on a regular basis because I want to have a distinct style. I feel like that should be most tattooers' goal. I mean, I don't want to tell people what their goal should be. I think that everybody does strive to have a style.
Yeah.
I came up in a street shop, it's not a private studio, it's kind of like they take walk-ins. So I learned to do everything well because I wasn't allowed to say no to things.
Right.
Also, there's like a dot work style, which is technically just stippling. So it's the style of shading, really. At the time when I was in my apprenticeship, I wasn't allowed to use a shader, I could only use a liner. So I had to learn how to make complete designs on the skin without having all of the tools, so I had to get creative. During the time of my apprenticeship, I was actually going through a lot of turmoil in my personal life. I was pregnant and homeless at the time, so I really had to throw my all into it, otherwise I didn't think I was gonna make it. So it was kind of like I had everything to gain and nothing to lose at that point.
Yeah. So I imagine that speeds up everything, that you learn quickly because you have to.
Yeah, I think so.
So before we started shooting, I was looking at some of the books and stuff in the shop, and there's one called, I think, like Stencils from the Past.
Oh yeah.
And it looks like kind of, when you think of an old school tattoo, it has lots of those types of images. Is that the kind of aesthetic you're into, or what really speaks to you?
I would say that I do love that traditional, American traditional style, which is what the book you were looking at was.
Yeah.
And it is something that I've always wanted to do, and I can do, and I do sometimes, but I typically just do what people come to me for, and it is a lot of women, and they typically, you know, want flowers or some kind of memorial tattoos for their loved ones and things like that. But yes, I do like the traditional style, and when I get tattooed, I go for that style myself.
So tell me the logistics of getting a tattoo. Say I come to you and show you a design of a rose, for example. What happens next?
Typically what I ask for is I need to know location of the body that the tattoo is going on. That helps me compose the tattoo. And then I need to know color, black and gray. I typically ask for reference photos so I know what style. It can be difficult to get on the same page sometimes, so I just ask for as much information as possible.
So once you have the information, what happens then? Say I want this flower on my arm. Is there a stencil? If so, where does that come from? How does it all work?
So when you come in for the tattoo, I will have the design ready. I let you look at the design. If you like it, great. If you don't, we can make some minor changes to it. We'll then make a stencil. We'll put the stencil on. If you like that, then we'll go from there to do the tattoo. If you don't like it, we can usually make adjustments and move the tattoo around.
Okay, you were talking earlier about the longevity and having to base your design on really how a tattoo is going to age. So what goes into that? How do you make sure that something is going to look good years from now?
There's a saying, bold will hold. So if you have a solid outline, which is important, there's good contrast. So typically that means there's black in the tattoo. And really, designs that are proportionate to the area matter. And also, not putting so many details into a tattoo that is going to be small really matters. So there's a lot of different elements that come into play with that, but
yeah. So how much of it is collaborative with the client? Because if I come in and say, okay, I want this, and I'm very specific, and you're looking at me going, that is not gonna work. Or it might short term, but it's gonna look real bad as you age and your body changes and all that. How often do you have to convince people, oh, maybe not?
I would say like once a month, you have to try to persuade somebody to move in the direction that's gonna be better for the tattoo. So it's never, I never tell anybody no. I always say yes, but we need to do this or
Right.
make these changes to make it work, and they typically trust my judgment. So.
Yeah. Okay, when it comes to color in a tattoo, how hard is it to get the shading right and all of that? And is that something that you see in your head, or do you have to have reference photos? What goes into making something pop color-wise?
Definitely black. You need to have black in the tattoo so that the colors look more vibrant. Just good contrast. Color theory matters, you know, making sure the colors are going to complement the skin tone and that they're going to complement the other colors that you're using, so all of that matters.
How does it feel to go from pregnant, homeless, this has to work, to now being booked out to summer to do what you love?
It doesn't seem real sometimes, and honestly, I still feel like a beginner. So I feel very humble, but I do feel blessed.
Yeah.
So.
Do you have like a North Star artist that you look to and go, oh man, I really wanna emulate him or her? Or do you try to just put on blinders and do what you do?
I would say that when it comes to the industry in our city, I do keep my blinders on just because I try to focus on what I'm doing and stay in my own lane. But I do think that there's so much talent out there that I do look to, you know, some of the heavy hitters in the industry and people who have been doing it for 20 years who, you know, are internationally known and just who do great tattoos. Like, that's what I strive for. So I could go on and on about names, but there's
Sure.
just so many.
Yeah. How do you think that you have evolved as an artist over the last 10 years?
I would say that probably every shop I've worked at, I've grown and evolved a little bit. My style evolves all the time, and it's based off of what I'm doing, because I do a lot of what my clients ask for. I do tend to get bored, so then I try to find ways to spice things up and make it exciting, because I do want to make every tattoo original and exciting and something that I want to do. So it's really just trying to find joy in the tattoos that I am doing. And
What's the best part of your job?
I think the best part is just being able to make people happy and really kind of just serve people in that way, because I think so many people get tattoos that mean something to them, and it's really important, and they spend a lot of time planning, and they take off work, you know, they save up money, they put their kids in daycare if they have to, and it's really a commitment they're making. And also, you know, they're making that commitment to have my art on them, which is a really big deal. It kind of makes me emotional. And really, tattoos affect people in ways that we really don't realize. You know, they're very empowering. They help with people's self-image. And a lot of times they're getting tattoos for loved ones that passed away or their children, and they usually mean something to them.
Yeah.
So,
how does it feel knowing that if I buy a painting, for example, and next year I'm like, don't really like it, I can take it down. Your artwork lives with somebody. Is that exciting to you? Is it scary? How does that make you feel?
I do think that it's special. It is a very special thing, you know, because it's almost like they take a piece of you with them.
Yeah.
But also, like, if I look at a tattoo that I did 5 years ago, I'm gonna be like, oh God, girl, it needs to work. But, you know, so it's like bittersweet for me. I don't know if I want to see them. I do, because I remember every tattoo I've ever done.
Yeah.
But, you know, it is cool.
Yeah.
It's cool that people are willing to make that commitment to your art for the rest of their life. Yeah, it's a cool feeling.
Fantastic. Well, I think that your work is so beautiful. Thank you so much for taking the time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Arts in Focus on PBS Fort Wayne is funded in part by